So let's see, Sri Lanka has the second highest GDP per capita in South Asia. I'm surprised by that. Let's see whether they're helping with the mortality rate over here. What we can get from this table is that vaccinations matter, people. So far, I can make two conclusions from the data we have. This is why I love working with data. Right, so we'll open SQL Server Management Studio. This is what we're gonna be typing our SQL queries on. So first we'll create a database. So we're gonna have to open a query and we will type create database. We'll name it COVID. Alright, there we go. We'll expand this and we will check whether it has been. Yep, there it is, it's been created. Now we will import our data. We'll right click tasks, import flat file. Next, browse to where your files are and we will import what we need. So we'll first bring the primary numbers, the most important ones. Next, so we'll have to assign the data types. Right, it's correct. Population density is a float, yes. Date. So these have to be int. We have to import them correctly, otherwise we're going to face a lot of trouble later on that we don't need. We want our analysis to go smoothly, and importing the correct data in the correct format is a very important part of it. Seems good? Let's go next. There we go. Done. There it is. Tables. Aha. Got it. So let's see whether we have imported it correctly. Select everything from primary. Oh, we can't use primary because primary is a keyword. First we're gonna have to change the table name because primary is a keyword. So we'll change that to main. Alright, and we will extract from main. There we go. It's everything we expected. We also have null values there. Nice. So the number of rows imported 5034. That's the number of rows we had earlier in the CSV. So it's importing correctly. So let's speed ahead into importing it. I might probably fast forward this part because it's generally the same thing. Alright. So I imported all the tables I need. I thought about it and I think I don't need the other tables. I'm just going to take the main, vaccinations, the facilities and the economic table. First I want to sort of have some general queries so that I can easily look at the table. So I would like to throw some queries over here for table overviews. So we'll be leaving some comments so we know what all these queries mean if we have to come back. This will be for overview of tables. First table will be main. That works. Second one will be vaccinations. That also works. Third one will be economic. That works too. Fourth one will be facilities. Alright, nice. So we have the overview of the tables. So I'm just gonna, on hindsight, because I already did this, on hindsight I'm gonna keep these codes in a new query table because when we go further down we type and type and type. We can't always waste time scrolling all the way up again to get these queries. So we're gonna have them in a separate tab over here. So if you want to look at the table, we're gonna just run them from here. Now we will start our analysis. Now I'd like to look at the main table. It has a lot of interesting numbers, actually the most important numbers that anybody would care about most of the time. So we have cases, we have deaths. So I would like to take the mortality rate. In simpler terms, what is your chance of dying if you get COVID-19 in a particular country? So for that, the general equation would be number of deaths divided by the number of cases into 100 to get the percentage. So we'll do that. Do that first. We will leave a comment here to indicate what we are doing. mortality rate by country. Start our work. We will select. We don't need everything, so all we need are total cases, total deaths. We need total cases, total deaths. Oh, we will also need the location. Obviously, we need to know what country we're looking at. Location, total cases, total deaths, and here comes the calculation. We can't take the sum of total cases or total deaths, because if you look at this, the total deaths column and the total cases column are aggregate. It keeps on adding. The more you scroll down, so if you take row number 490, it is the latest amount of deaths. This 57,721 doesn't mean that 57,721 people died on this particular day. It just means that from the beginning of the COVID pandemic up to that date, 57,721 people have died. So it's an aggregate value. So if we can take the latest value, we're going to have to use max. So we will use max total deaths divided by max total cases into 100%, and we'll add the brackets over here just in case, and we will name this column as mortality rate. We're taking it from the main table and we will group it by location. So location means the country name. You can see over here location means the country name. So we'll group it by location because we need a breakdown by country. If we don't put the group by location, it'll give us all the breakdowns for the particular day. That's not what we want. So group by location, and we'll order it by location as well. There we go. We will run it. Alright, obviously there's going to be an error because these two columns are not aggregates. So we'll put again not the sum, the max. It's the latest number. Because those two columns are aggregates. Just because you put max doesn't mean that you're going to get an aggregate, you're going to get the latest value. That's not how max works. But in this case, max will work because the latest number is obviously the biggest number because it adds on day by day. And we will run again. Alright, there we go. Ooh, mortality rate 0. Why? Because we have to cast these as floats. Now you see these two numbers, they are integers, right? So when we make the calculation, the SQL takes the result as an integer as well. I don't know why. So we're gonna have to cast these two as floats in order for our result to come out as a float as well. So we'll do that now. We will cast these as floats. Because if you remember when we created the table, we created these as integers. Cast total deaths as float, and we have to cast this too as float. Do the number of do the brackets match? Yes. Oh, yes, it does now. Alright, there we go. We have the right number of brackets. Nope, we don't have the right number of brackets. This is what I hate. There we go. We have one less. We're done now. Alright, we need an opening bracket over here. That's what the problem was. So we'll add two brackets over here. Alright, there we go. Whew, those number of brackets really got me. I got my head spinning. I have named two columns. What the hell? Alright. As total cases. This one as total deaths. Alright. We'll run it. There we go. According to the data that we have over here, it looks like Afghanistan has the highest mortality rate. We can order by this column. So we will type order by 4 descending. That means order by the 4th column in the descending order. So alright, there we go. So it looks like Afghanistan has the highest mortality rate in South Asia with 4.65% chance of you dying if you get coronavirus, and Sri Lanka is at number 2 with 2.54, meaning if Sri Lanka, if a person got COVID-19, there was 2.54% chance of that person dying. India, surprisingly with so many people, are at number 6, third lowest mortality rate, even though they have such a high, have easily like highest amount of people out of this entire list easily. Wow, that was a good insight what we got. And Bhutan has only 3 deaths. I want to believe it. I don't know, it's got 3 deaths. Amazing. And 2,623 cases. I mean, wow, they've done a fantastic job if the data is correct. Well, you know what, I'd like to take a look at the population as well, so we can like have a grasp of what kind of numbers we're dealing with here, like what kind of numbers the Bhutan government is dealing with. 3 deaths, it's pretty impressive, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to add the population, so max population, and the name would be population, and we will run this again. And there we go. So Bhutan has a population of 779,900 people. They've only got infected 2,623. Wow, pretty impressive. These guys are pretty cool. Alright, next I want to look at how much of the population has got infected. So we'll check, what we're going to check? We're going to check percentage population infected by country. And for that, we will obviously need all of these. So we'll just copy it. We don't need this. We don't need the mortality rate. Instead, what we want, we don't need the deaths column either because we're really dealing with cases here. Next, we're gonna have to make a calculation. I'll just take this. Right, and so we'll be dividing the total cases by the entire population into 100%. So we'll just copy this. Remember, we have to keep the float because we have to tell SQL what kind of output we want, and over here we'll type the population. Alright, there we go. And we will have, not the mortality rate, we'll have the positive rate. I will call it positive rate, you can call it whatever you want. Positive rate, so Bhutan once again with 0.3%, impressive. Next to Afghanistan with 0.39%, so see, when we compare to the total population, it's not that big of a gap, but numbers wise, impressive, really impressive. So we've got Maldives up at first place with 16% of their population being infected. Holy shit. And we've got second place Nepal at 2.7%. Wow, that's a huge gap between Maldives and Nepal. I mean, at least their mortality rate is low. So, and we got Nepal number 2 and Sri Lanka at number 3 at 2.53% of the population being infected. India at 2.4, obviously they have a huge population there. Bangladesh at 0.9. Keeping it under control relatively in South Asia. Yep, let's move on. What are we going to look at next? So we're talking about population, right? Let's take that angle. So a country might have a large population, right? So for example, Sri Lanka and Australia roughly had the same number of people, but Australia obviously is a huge continent and Sri Lanka is like this really tiny and like a dot compared to Australia. Population density in Sri Lanka is going to be really high. I mean, like people are going to be really close together compared to Australia. So when people are close together, man, I mean, could be a factor, right? Because there's not a lot of places you can go to if there are too many people. So I want to take the next angle into population density. So let's take that. We have a column for that as well. I mean, we have a ready-made column for that. So all we need to do is combine that column into the relative country. Take it, comparing cases and deaths with population density. Alright, so we will start with select everything, no, not everything, select. So we'll pretty much need these three. Now, so we'll pretty much need these queries. Once again, it's pretty similar, the number of columns, the type of columns we need. Right, look, we need location, population, total cases, total deaths, and we also need the population density, which we have. Again, the population density is the same throughout the entire sheet for the respective country. Density, right? Okay, total cases, total deaths. I'm gonna need this. Yeah, and order by, we'll order by the third column, which is the population density. There we go. So Maldives has the highest population density, so no wonder that 16% of their population was infected. You know what, I'm gonna combine these tables because we can't be thinking about previous tables, you know, we need everything over here. So I'm gonna add those columns over here. I wanna see the positive rate. I mean, the positive rate is very much associated with the population density because you can get infected, and then whether you die or not depends on a whole lot of other factors like healthcare. Okay, so yeah, Maldives has the highest population density, and obviously they have the highest rate of infection. Pretty understandable. Bangladesh, that is once again job well done, I would say. Keeping it really under control, even though they have the second highest population density. I mean, a huge gap with India, by the way, and still they've kept it below 1%. Amazing. And then number 3 is India, and their infection rate is 2.4, and then number 4 Sri Lanka, with not that much of difference between Sri Lanka and India. The population density though is a lot less here in Sri Lanka, but the positive rate is 1 decimal point higher than India. Nepal, with the third least population density in South Asia, have somehow raked up 2.7% infection rate. That's not so great, I would say. Bhutan has the least population density, so it's quite understandable how they can be under control because they have a lot of space to move around. Looking at this, it seems, except for 2 anomalies that are Bangladesh and Nepal, every other country seems to be giving us the indication that population density does affect the rate of infection. Pretty cool insight. Alright, let's continue. So I'm going to change the name of the analysis over here. We'll name this effect of population density on infection rate. So I'd like to take a look at the economic table over here. So in the economic table, we have the GDP per capita. So I'd like to check whether the GDP per capita affects the infection rate or perhaps the death rate. We'll be checking effect of GDP on infection and death rate. So we will take all of these. We'll need most of those columns, and we'll take the mortality rate over here as well. Joining, so we're gonna have to take the economic table. We're going to join them on, we have to name the tables first, on m dot location equals e dot location, and m dot date equals m dot location. We have to have both of these joints because otherwise there are no unique values in either of these tables. Location alone is not a unique value, there's multiple repetitions. Even the date is not a unique value because each country has the exact same date in some point. But if we combine them together, the date and the location, one country will have one date only once. So if we combine the two, it's going to be a unique code for us. So we have to join it using these 2 columns. So location and date. And we're going to have to name these things. So population we'll take from the main table, it's m dot population, population density from the main table, total cases from the main table, population once again from the main table, total cases from the main table, total deaths from the main table, again same over here. And now we have a new column that is, we don't need population density over here. Instead, we'll take E dot GDP per capita. There we go, as obviously GDP per capita. And there we go. We will run it and we will order it by 3. Once again, we'll order it by the GDP per capita, which is going to be the third column. So number 3 over there. Oops, error. Oh, we are missing a comma. Okay. Oh, ambiguous column name, right? Obviously, location is going to be from M. We have to name location. Mistakes. Don't worry. If you know your stuff, these mistakes are all fixable. Oh, I made a mistake here. I've put date with location, which is wrong. It should be M date and E date. I don't know what I was thinking. Alright, there we go. Right, perfect code. Alright, so Maldives has the highest GDP per capita in South Asia, and they still have a very high positive rate. So let's see, Sri Lanka has the second highest GDP per capita in South Asia. I'm surprised by that. India is at number 4 in GDP per capita in South Asia, and they have the 4th highest infection rate. So it looks like GDP per capita is not really helping countries stay safe. Let's see whether they're helping with the mortality rate over here. Well, let me pull up the mortality rate table as well for our convenience here. So we'll sort of take this over here and we'll run these two together. And we have to order this by column number 5 to order it by the mortality rate. And now we'll run those two together. Right. So we have Afghanistan with the lowest GDP and the highest mortality rate. So it seems to match in their case, but Sri Lanka once again has become an exception, has become an anomaly with the second highest GDP but the second highest mortality rate. Pakistan with the third highest mortality rate only has the 5th highest GDP. India has third lowest mortality rate, but they are the 4th in GDP per capita. Well, not far off with their location in this table, but all in all, it sort of indicates that the GDP per capita has not really helped these countries in either keeping the infection rate low or even keeping the death rate low. So it seems like out of the 3 factors we checked here, GDP per capita, population and population density, it seems that population density is the strongest factor right now that is determining the infection rate. Alright, so we did that too. So we're just gonna get rid of this over here. We don't need this now. Right, vaccinations. Alright, that's a pretty important one. So let's take a look at what we have in vaccinations. Alright, I want to look at the table here. So we have total vaccinations, people vaccinated, people fully vaccinated, and new vaccinations. So I don't know what the difference between total vaccinations and people vaccinated, or rather people vaccinated or new vaccinations, but they're there. This seems to be the same. I don't know why they have 2 different columns for that, but okay. So we have full vaccinations, we have total vaccinations. Obviously there are 2 separate ones because you need to get 2 vaccinations to be fully vaccinated in most cases. But let's see whether there is a correlation between full vaccinations and the mortality rate. We'll take a look at effect of vaccinations on mortality rate. Right, so we're gonna, for that, we are obviously gonna need the mortality rate. So we'll take it from over here, mortality rate, right, and then we'll add the columns that we need. So we're gonna need the vaccinations, the total number of vaccinations. So we will take that. Max V dot vaccinations total, no, not total vaccinations, people fully vaccinated, people fully vaccinated, people as people fully vaccinated. Now we'll do the calculation. We have the mortality rate over here. Alright, we have our numbers. Now we'll have to join these 2 tables, obviously. Join vaccinations. name these m dot location equals v dot location, and m dot date equals v dot date. We'll have to add the m's once again. And we'll add the m for the location column as well. There we go. And we will group it by location once again, and we will order it by column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the total people fully vaccinated. We will run it. Ambiguous column name, obviously, right? So we have to add an m over here as well. Run it. I'm going to compare this to the population and see how much of the population that they have actually vaccinated. So we're going to do a calculation here similar to this one. Paste, and we'll change the columns to v dot people fully vaccinated divided by m dot population. We have two S's. Okay. We'll run it, and there we go. Okay, so it seems like Bhutan, wow, they're doing a terrific job at managing this according to the data. So Bhutan has 71.7 people fully vaccinated, and their mortality rate is really low at 0.1%. They have the lowest mortality rate. And Maldives has the second highest people vaccinated with 0.2% mortality rate, so it's clearly helping. Sri Lanka at third place with people fully vaccinated, but 2.5%, and we remember that Sri Lanka has the second highest mortality rate in South Asia. So in their case, the people fully vaccinated is not helping them, but both the other two countries in the list, it matches. So next we have India with the fourth highest percentage of people fully vaccinated, and they have 1.34% mortality. That matches. Nepal again matches with 1.4% mortality rate and fifth highest people fully vaccinated. Pakistan, not that much of an anomaly because it's at the bottom of the table, but I guess they should probably be at sixth place compared to the people fully vaccinated, compared to the mortality rate, but again they have sort of like flipped one position, but I don't think it's big of a deal. We have Bangladesh at the second lowest percentage of people fully vaccinated. According to the mortality rate, they should be like somewhere around sixth place. So Pakistan and Bangladesh, they should switch places, but I wouldn't call those two an anomaly. The anomaly in this case would be Sri Lanka to have the third highest percentage of people fully vaccinated but still have a mortality rate that is the second highest in South Asia. So that is an anomaly at number 3 with Sri Lanka. But the rest of the table, it seems that it matches out. What we can get from this table is that the higher the percentage of your population you fully vaccinate, the lower your mortality rate is going to be. That means vaccinations have an impact of whether you die or not. So vaccinations matter, people. Alright, so that was a really useful insight that we got from this table, I would say. So far, can make two conclusions from the data we have. The population density affects a lot on how much the infection rate is going to be. And the second conclusion we got was the higher percentage of population you have fully vaccinated, the lower the mortality rate is. Pretty cool, I would say. This is why I love working with data, because when you drill down, you sort of figure out certain things that you didn't expect, and you can dispel some wrong thoughts that you had looking at the hard data. Alright, so we're gonna stop from here. So I think we did a fair bit of analysis, and I think it'll be enough for one video. And there's a lot of data and a lot of ways we can look at it, and we can look at it all day, all night, but we're gonna have to stop at one point, and I think this is the point that we need to stop. So with that, we have completed our second step, that is analyzing the data using SQL. So next we'll do step number 3, data visualization using Tableau Public.